right, friends. How are you today? Aaron here bringing you some honest astrology. We've got a big eclipse happening early Friday morning, almost 3 o'clock in the morning at 2:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have our first eclipse of the year. The North Node has moved into Pisces over the past month and a half. South Node is now in Virgo. We've just switched out of this North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. Very, very different energy. Taking a moment away from astrology to drink that energy in, and as well to focus on some of my other projects. That Mars retrograde was very powerful for me. Hopefully it was very powerful for you as well. A lot of good forward momentum, even though our planet of action was retrograde. And it's... Anyway, where are we now? Where are we now? We've got an eclipse coming up. All right. The North Node moving from... This is complicated. This might be one of the more complicated astrology talks that I've done since I've been putting these videos out since 2016, 2017. This is very complicated. There's a lot of heavy aspects that deal with our minds, disillusionment, and logical reality. And when you have the human being coming into reality, the observer coming into reality, we can interpret this reality any way that we want to. And this is our left brain, right brain, okay? Our left brain being Virgo, our right brain being Pisces. And we're not just the North Node in Pisces. Let's talk about just that for a quick second. The North Node in Pisces, coming from Aries. Coming from Aries is about self, okay? This is where Mercury and Venus are right now, which are... Venus is retrograde, and Mercury on this exact moment of the eclipse. Mercury is station retrograde. They're both in Aries, and they're both going to retrograde back into Pisces, and they're going to end their retrograde cycle in Pisces with Saturn, and where the sun is now, where the North Node is going to be for the next 16 months, and then where Neptune has been for 16 years, and it's finally on its way out later this year into next year, finally out into Aries. All right, so this Aries energy is about self, learning about yourself, and the importance of being selfish in our relationships versus giving so much to the other that when we put the other on the pedestal, we lose sight of ourselves. When we focus too much on the barking dog, we never make it our way to the beach, our personal destination, because we're giving so much to others. And this got very complicated, even in this message, saying focus on yourself, and it doesn't matter what Donald Trump is doing, it doesn't matter what Elon Musk is doing, it doesn't matter what the Democrats or Republicans are doing, it doesn't matter what anybody else in the world is doing, focus on you. And I will not lie, like me talking in my honest astrology, being as authentic as I can, in unbiased ways I can, read you the planets and read this message, not coming from a Democratic or Republican perspective myself, I lose a lot of people, a lot of followers by being honest. And that's okay, because that is my job and that is my goal, is to maintain honesty. And I'm going to maintain that honesty and integrity, and I'm going to continue to do that today. And I lose followers, I lose friends by being honest about stuff. And that's part of the shadow that we're seeing right now. Okay, that's what the eclipse is. The North Node is here, the sun is here, the moon is here, Earth is here. Okay, Earth is here in Virgo, and we're going to see the shadow of Earth on the moon. That's what this eclipse is all about. We're going to see the shadow of the Earth on the moon, and the moon, of course, being our emotions, and the sun being our point of illumination. This is in our mind, and again, the observer and the observer mind, this is the information coming into my eyes, the information coming into my ears, the information coming into my mouth, my taste buds, information coming into my sensory, touch, taste, smell, see, and hear, balance, motion, all these things, my senses. So when we have information coming in, and I can say, oh, this is a beautiful sunny day in Detroit, Michigan, and it's like, I don't know, 40 degrees, but it's like really nice for winter right now. And I can say it's a beautiful sunny day. And then somebody in Florida can be like, that's not a beautiful sunny day. This is a beautiful sunny day. It's like, well, that's also a beautiful sunny day. And well, now we can get into differentiating what qualifies something to be beautiful. Well, it's warmer here in Florida. It's colder in Detroit. So you can wear less clothing, or you can go out to the beach. I can't go to the beach right now. I'm still wearing a long sleeve shirt and a hoodie. I can't go to the beach right now. If I can, I'm going to be bundled up. So they can justify beauty as being this. Let's say we get lost in the little things. That's what Virgo is. Virgo is the details. We get lost in these details of what beautiful is. It's just like, well, this is my observation that today's a beautiful day. And then somebody else in somebody else's perspective can come in and say, that's actually not beautiful. This is beautiful. Or I could say, oh, it's really windy today. And they say, well, have you ever been to Seattle? Have you ever been out on an ocean liner? That's wind. It's just like, okay, sure, that's windy as well, but in my observation at this moment, it is windy. And I'm just sharing my observation. And a lot of times others want to compare and contrast, and comparison is the thief of joy in many ways. And we have belief on one hand. Pisces is about belief. I believe this to be true, and I have faith. I have unfathomable faith, belief, and confidence. I'll tell you this right now. I can say this as being an American and watching our American politics and watching that the news and media is ruled by Piscean energy, the world of illusion and disillusionment. And Saturn is in here, which Saturn is the law and the authority, and the sun creating illumination in this place that is the ionosphere, if you will, the exosphere. This is so far out there, and there's no light, there's no cold, there's no sound, and yet we're still having this like point of illumination from here, from this abyss. And Saturn's trying to do its best to clean up our minds, to clean up our logical minds, and using words that have been weaponized against us. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the shadow of logic. I was born in 82. Since I was a kid, and it's like, oh, well, these things change and they evolve. It's like, well, some things do, but not everything. Sex and gender. These are synonyms. They've been synonyms. They've always been synonyms. They've always been synonyms. And then we get into these little word games. And we say, oh, well, it's a man-made construct. It's like, no. These are sounds. Sounds. This is a sound my throat hole makes. My larynx is slapping together against the pieces of my throat. And I'm looking at the observable universe. And I'm looking at the lens that's attached to the camera, which is attached to the tripod, connected to the computer and the monitors and the mouse and the keyboard. Sure, these are all made up words, but they're describing my very real observable universe, my observable reality. So even if I didn't have a word to describe these things, they still exist regardless if I have a sound that comes out of my throat hole in my mouth to name them. Okay. So we get in these like little, it's like a joke. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's silly that we play these little games with ourselves, and to the point where we're believing it. Okay, this is the shadow that's going on right now, like where we're believing, oh no, these are different things. It's like, no, they're not. They are the same thing that we're choosing to look at differently. And we're choosing to play in these word games, and we're choosing to. And we have beliefs, and everybody can have a belief. And it's just like, when we look at religion, it's like the Jews believe what they wrote in their book, and they believe it to be true. And they believe that they are God's chosen people, and everybody else, me and everybody else who's not Jewish and not practicing the faith, even if you're not practicing the faith, even if you are practicing the faith, but you're not of Jewish blood, Jewish descent, then you are not God's chosen people. God loves you, but you're just simply not chosen. You're not one of God's people. And this is told to me by a rabbi. All right. So that's ridiculous. Then if you're a Christian, you can say, oh, well, if as long as you believe in Jesus and as long as you believe the words that this book wrote, the book that we wrote, you believe this book, then you can have eternal afterlife too. And if not, I mean, we're not judging you, but God's going to judge you and you will live. I mean, it's not my words saying this, but you will burn and perish in a tormented afterlife in hell. You know, I mean, that's on you because you choose not to believe in Jesus. It's just like, okay, this is a game. This is wordplay. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe Jesus ever existed. I believe Jesus is a personified allegory of the sun, which I've talked about on this channel time and time again. But that doesn't mean it's not going to offend a Christian if I say I don't believe in Jesus. And they have no problems offending me by telling me, oh, I'll pray for you, because you're going to go to hell otherwise. It's like, that's a nasty thing to say. It's a very nasty perspective to hold that someone is just going to burn and perish in a terrible afterlife because they don't believe what you believe. Now, I just had an MRI. I literally just came from having an MRI. I slipped and fell. I'm going to talk about all kinds of things today, so this is going to be a long one, guys. I just slipped and fell in January 31st, the last day of January. It is now, the 11th of March. 11th of March. I slipped and fell on a professional athlete's home. Okay? It's my job. I work in television, if you guys don't know this already, if you're new to the channel. I work in television. So I work with a lot of athletes, movie stars, whatever. In the world of equality, let's talk about that for just a second before moving on. We are not equal. I work in the same ball field as these folks, and the discrepancy from the star to the grunt worker, which is me, is very unequal in our world, okay? Here's the story. So I walk into this person's garage in January. It's snowy. They epoxied their floor. I didn't know this. I step in, my foot slips out from underneath me like I've never stepped on, like I had roller skates on. Like it was like greased up. You know, it's like seeing the Christmas Story when they Crisco the bottom of the sled. It was like that, like phew, lightning bolt. My foot went out from underneath me, slipped, fell on my back, hurt really bad. I had to go get an X-ray. I needed an MRI. Obviously, I knew I didn't break anything, but I needed an MRI. So I have to go through the hoops now. I have to go get an X-ray, and then they're going to tell me they're going to look at it, and I need an MRI. Then I go to that person that's going to tell me I need an MRI. Then I go get the MRI. So there's like all these steps, right? Now, I just finally today got the MRI because I have to deal with the insurance company, and they're like, oh, well, is this going to be – we don't know if this is – something that really just happened. It's like there was an eyewitness that this just happened, and I'm making the workers' compensation. I'm making the claim for it, you know. And they're like, well, we have to pause. We got to do our own investigation. Why am I saying this? If that professional athlete came to my house and slipped and fell on my driveway in my garage, his health care. Like this, you guys, it would be so fast. It'd be so fast. He'd have an MRI. He'd have that stuff done. He wouldn't be jumping through the hoops of, well, let's call our insurance company and we'll make sure that we can do this, and we got to investigate you and make sure that you're not lying. It's like I slipped and fell on what? And all these hoops, right? So part of me telling you about this is we're not equal. And why is that not in our world of equality right now? Why aren't some of these things that we're talking about on the top focus of equality? Is it because the news and media is pushing an agenda that's their version of equality and what they think is important for us right now? And it's just like, it should be taken into consideration. Now, aside from that, there's a part 2 to that story. The purpose of me having the MRI is to find out what the heck is going on with my back and body and what is pinched in my nervous system where, so we can resolve that through physical therapy. Surgery is the last option, and it should be the last option, and it should be those conversations should be able to be had with me without me being irate, angry, upset, or whatever. Okay, so this is going to get into another aspect of our conversation of the shadow of earth and the shadow of logic and the shadow of language in the games that we're playing between our left brain and our right brain. And we don't want to offend people, right? I don't want to offend a Christian by saying I don't believe in Jesus, but the Christian doesn't mind offending me. So I don't go out of my way to poke the Christian. I let the Christian be. I let the people be. But when they come and try to poke their and push their stuff onto me, that's when it becomes a bit different, right? That's when we have to communicate back. I actually don't believe in these things. And usually it's not usually an okay topic to just let go. It's like, oh, cool. Would you like to, you know what? I've never met a Christian that says, oh, I would love to hear about your beliefs. Never. They actually tell me about theirs. They want me to believe their perspective. They want me to understand that their perspective is the right perspective, that my perspective is wrong. Okay, again, our emotional moon over here in Virgo, right or wrong, left and right. This is left, right. I'm going to make my decisions, and the information's going to come at me. And there's a little paddle board here, and its information's coming at me, and it's saying yes to this, no to this, yes to this, no to this, yes, 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 no, no, no. So information comes in, and I get to decide on what I agree with and what I don't agree with, what aligns, what doesn't align. I can reinterpret things. Right, so I can re-examine things if I chose to, if somebody brought me back other information. I have logic and power to be reasonable. So if I were to say, hey, it's really windy, and somebody says, have you ever been to this place? And I can say, whoa, and they show me some video footage or something of a tsunami or hurricane winds, and I say, wow, you know what? It's windy here, but that is a whole other, I might re-choose my words differently next time when talking about how windy. You know what? This is a nice breeze. Right? Do you see what I'm saying here? So it's like when presented new information, we can change our linguistics. We can change how we approach things or how we observe things or how we communicate about things. So again, coming back to this, surgery is the last resort. Now, we have here something that's been going on, started kind of 2015, hit really hard the past 4 or 5 years when we're talking about transgender. And it seems like such a hot topic that it can't be talked about unless it's only in pro. Yes, go get it, slay, do your thing. We support you in your journey in self-discovery. I support you in your journey of self-discovery. However, I'm still a person that's going to say surgery is going to be the last resort. And if you ask somebody like me, which sometimes people do, because I've set myself up in my life where sometimes people come to me for advice. So as a person that has to give advice, I have to be grounded and rooted in my perspectives. I have to be grounded and rooted in a place where I'm coming from of love, compassion, empathy, in order to give that sound, logical words of wisdom back to an individual so that when it hits their ears and comes into their brain, it makes sense, it fits into their heart, and it allows them, gives them some sort of sanctuary, some peace, some cathartic whatever that can resolve the issue that they had while coming to me to begin with. So when anybody creates that for themselves, or anybody has a freaking opinion of their own, they should be able to share it and have an opinion of their own. But right now, we've been shown that to have an opinion that is opposite of what is the majority is against. You are against this. So I can say, well, I don't believe in Jesus. I'm not Jewish, so I can't be Jewish. I don't believe in Jesus, and I wasn't raised with Islam. I'm not, shouldn't be offensive, right? That's just not my perspective. It's not my views. Even we talk about God or something, it's like a pantheistic approach. I think God is everything and everywhere, and everyone is God, and we're all part of God, experiencing God. So that's supposed to offend somebody. Okay, so it's just like, hey, do you feel that men can be men and women can be women? No, I think men are men and women are women, and I think we got to, steer somebody back to themselves. I don't think an apple tree was supposed to be an oak tree, or a raspberry bush was supposed to be strawberries. I don't think the Creator has done that, and I don't think we need surgeries to get us in alignment with becoming the best version of ourselves. Like, I don't think we need to use technology and surgery to finally become what we weren't, what we aren't, what we weren't given at birth. I think you were given it all at birth. And I think you're given all the keys and all the wisdom and all the knowledge and all the questions and all the answers. It's all given to you, and it's all literally living inside of your DNA, inside your cells from the moment you're born. And it's like, and that's okay. And that's okay to be able to guide somebody, say, no, it's okay. You're a man. And now let's, there's a lot of different kinds of versions of men. There's some big, burly, strong men, and some men have big beards and big muscles. Like, I'm not that guy, like I'm a man, but I'm not that version of a man. And then there's different versions of men. There's different versions of women. There's different, but it's like when we blur the lines of oak tree, apple tree, no, those are actually pear trees. And we have to use logic and understanding in our communication to be able to sort this out. And it seems as if the majority of people seem to fall into this category of logic and not trying to be offensive and just not scared. It's not about phobia. It's just about a logical perspective and a grounded perspective of life and the observable universe and the observable universe that we see all around us. And it's like, why do people get so angry right now? Why are we allowing ourselves to have such emotional turbulence and turmoil over something that shouldn't really be that big of a deal for some? But why is it a big deal? Because now the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So here I am with my little wagon, and I'm taking my wagon down, and I've got it filled up with a bunch of stuff, and my little one wheel, that means to me, okay, I need to pay attention to this thing. I need to give it some oil, grease it up. Or I throw the whole thing away and buy a new one. I have to make those decisions. Is this worth keeping? Is this worth saving on to, or do I just toss it out? I've seen this. To share different perspectives, I've seen people throw away relationships, throw away friendships, throw away lifelong friendships over this topic. And it's strange I'm talking about this topic, but this is very relevant in the astrology. So thanks for bearing with me, whoever's still here talking about this with me or watching it with me. I had a friend recently. I put a post out not too long ago on Facebook. Oh, hate book. I've actually had to remove myself from it for a little while because it's just very, very aggressively nasty right now. And these mixed dualistic perspectives. It's either my way or my way is you're wrong, And I lost one of my best friends for almost 20 years. And when we finally had a conversation, he looked at me in the eye and he told me that he could accept me if I were to cut off my genitals, if I were to put on a dress or wear clothing clothing that identifies or aligns with women's clothing. And if I said I identify as a woman now, my friend would have lied to me, looked at me in the eyes and lied to me and said, yes, Aaron, you're a woman. But because I share a perspective that I say, I don't believe that is real. And I think that we need to work a little bit harder in planting the proper seeds in people's minds that they can be whoever they want with the body that they already have, right? And keep it back to like, hey, you're already perfect how you are. He couldn't accept that from me. So this is this interesting, right? This is why it's a full moon eclipse. This is very dualistic energy. So you can lie to me. You will lie to me and tell me that I'm something that I'm not because I believe it. Remember, we're talking about belief here. Over logic and words that actually align with the thing that it is. This is a very funny conundrum. It's a very funny conundrum, and we're all working through this together. And there has to be a bit of a stone wall. That's Saturn's job. Saturn's job is to be the brick wall, is to be that immovable force. And it's just like, okay, in this grand scheme, it's just like, this wasn't supposed to be a transgender talk, but this is just the talk in general, of what happens, right? The squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel is saying, well, what? Do we get our own bathrooms now? Do we have to have now 3 bathrooms? And is this going to be code that we now have to put through the entire United States? like we switched from copper piping to galvanized pipe, or to galvanized pipe to this plastic pipe. It's like mandatory. You have to put that in. You can't have galvanized piping in your place anymore. It's outdated. It's old. So it's like these 2 bathrooms. No, you got to spend money and have a 3rd bathroom in there for these individuals. Like, we're getting in a very strange place, and we need to be able to have logical conversations that are just human conversations without the emotional turbulence, the emotional turmoil that someone's being attacked. And it's like, just because I don't believe in Christianity doesn't mean I'm attacking it. Just because I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, my perspective is my perspective, and they can go do their own thing. But if they keep coming to me and tell me that I have to believe their perspective, well, that's when there's going to be pushback. And that's exactly what we can see is happening globally, and especially here in the United States. We're seeing pushback because people don't generally, or the general masses aren't believing with all the narratives that are being taught to us or being told to us. Again, if you're still sticking around for this, thank you. When I was a kid, my grandparents used to call the television an idiot box. An idiot box. We look at the TV now, we look at the idiot box now as it's the, I don't know, like we look at it as like this is where all of the information of the world. I get all of my information through this, and these are secondary to whatever the person on the TV is telling me, the person that I give authority to. Oh, the anchor on the television. They must have worked really hard to be an anchor to get where they're at right now. So they're reading the news. So I must believe what they have to say, because why would they be lying to me? They want the best for me, right? No, they want to sell their product. Coming from somebody who works directly in the industry, everything in this industry is selling a product. I mean, I would say 90%. 90%. You might get 10%, maybe 10% of journalists that actually care. But you still fall into a trap. Here, I'm going to talk about it right now, too. You fall into a trap. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do an investigative journalist thing. I'm going to put out this story about this one thing. Oh, cool. And all of a sudden, it got some views. It got some hits. And people are really excited about your journalism. Well, that's great. But sometimes, it's like lightning doesn't always strike the same spot twice. So now you're going to get that same investigative journalist that's going to be seeking more stories and more stories to deliver that same kind of impact. And they might start to fabricate things just to get you that same ratings, the same info. I worked with the prosecuting attorney here in the state of Michigan, a very, very prestigious, very high up attorney in the state of Michigan. And it's funny because I worked with her on one show, and I worked with the other person that was fighting against her on a different TV show. All right. And it was really cool to hear. I interviewed both of them to like see their different perspectives. And the one person that was fighting against the prosecuting attorney was like, she was ruthless. They're like, I know I had the information right, but the prosecuting attorney was just on it, and was like not giving up at all. And when we talked to the prosecuting attorney, again, this is a completely different television show. And recalling that particular scenario, she's like, yeah, I knew I was wrong. She's like, I knew I was beat, but I'm not going down without a fight. So if I'm going to be beat, you're going to have to really, really, really fight me for it. And it was like, wow, that was so fascinating, because I really liked and respected this person until that point. Until that they knew they were wrong. Instead of seceding, instead of just saying like, all right, you got me. Or yeah, the prosecution rests. Right? Instead of saying something like that, it's like, no. I know I'm wrong, and I know that person's right, but I'm going to still try my best to incriminate them anyway. This is wrong. This is our judicial system. Okay? This is also television. That wasn't for TV. That was televised because, and I cannot talk about what it was or who it was, but you get it. NDAs, baby. I'm saying too much as it is. So it's like, we have people that are willing to fight for the wrong just because they don't want to lose the argument. We have to understand this to be factual. We have to understand this is part of our shadow that humanity is dealing with right now. We have to understand these wars that are happening between people and between the left and the right, between men and women. I'll say this, just in this little MRI, I vulnerably, these two ladies are taking down my information right before I go to the thing. I'm vulnerably, I say, I'm in a lot of pain. I was like, they're asking what makes it worse or helps. And I say, I'm in a lot of pain. It doesn't matter if I'm sitting, standing. I'm not running a marathon right now. And I said, I'm in a lot of pain. And I was like, I'm kind of being a big baby no matter what position I'm in right now. And this woman looks at me and she says, all men are big babies. All men are big babies. And so I said, you didn't have to be sexist about it. Like, here I am, vulnerably opening up to you, professional person and person who's seeking care. I'm opening up to you that I'm in pain, that I'm hurting, and that my nature is being a man, or nature is being a human person. I don't think this is necessarily entitled to a man, but to persevere, to carry on, to overcome the complications, to overcome the obstacles. And I'm vulnerably stating to you that I'm having difficulty overcoming these obstacles, these normal obstacles in life. And then I say I'm being a baby by it. And instead of just saying like, yeah, we all are, instead of humanizing it and everybody's like that. No, it's purposefully, yeah, all men are like that. All men are babies. And I was like, man, this isn't how we get back to loving companionship. This is, and I see sometimes these ladies on here saying like, men, why aren't you approaching us anymore? Where are all the guys at? Why don't you have any huevos? Where are your, it's just like, well, it can't be ladies' night and you make a guy feel like a creep and a jerk for trying to come over and say hello. And at the same time, also be mad when it's like these are double standards, and we're seeing these double standards everywhere. And it's time that we look in the mirror and see our own shadow. And why am I talking about it with this particular eclipse? Is because deals with our brains. This deals with our minds. This deals with psychology. This is different energy than what we've been dealing with in the past. And as well, we have this Mars retrograde and in Cancer, which is going to be creating this, as you see here, this sextile to the moon, sextile to the North Node. It's like we have to, in some ways, give up the emotional reaction, like what I was talking about, the prosecuting attorney not wanting to give up the fight when she knew she was wrong and didn't want to succeed, didn't want to just say the defense rests and allow this other person to it's like, nope, I'm going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. It's just like, what is Cancer all about? Where is our planet of action? Is in compassion and breakthroughs in Uranus. Breakthroughs in what? The breakthroughs are in the patriarchal sign of Taurus. Could that possibly mean that there are people in the patriarchy that are actually working in your favor right now? And that you might have a judgment that you need to let go of and move toward a place of compassion and understanding and forgiveness? I probably should have started the video off with that. Who knows who's even here for it at this point. But, it's like that's what I see here in this astrology is like how many people are so abusively aggressive. And here's two. We talk about faith and belief. And it's like I don't think I've ever seen in my entire life a mass group of people have such belief, faith, and confidence in failure. It's astounding to me on how much the news, how much the social media before I deleted it, how many people are out here spouting their pure confidence in their faith and their belief that we're going to fail. And it's like, if we look at that confidence, this still deals with the brain. And it's just like, if you say, Aaron, I've had these conversations with people when during like coaching sessions, like, well, I don't feel like I can do this. I'm not confident in this way, or I'm not confident I can do that. It's just like, well, you're very confident. You're very confident in your lack of confidence. Like, you're very reassured that you can't do that. You're very reassured that you're very positive that we're going to fail. You're very positive that we're not going to do good. We're very positive. It's just like we just have to switch the tracks that the train's on. and it'll arrive at a different destination, right? But the law of attraction says whatever you see in your mind, you're going to line it up, and it's going to create it, and it's going to exist. So that's like the rub with this North Node in Pisces, with Neptune in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, trying to help create solid arguments, solid foundations, so that we're not just off in the ether saying, oh, I can be a butterfly, I can be a bird, I can be a dragon, I can be a woman, I can be a man, I can be whatever I want to be. I love how the lens is focusing on anything. It's just like, no, I'm a human man. I'm not a cat. I'm not a dog. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings by saying this, but it's the facts. This is the factual reality. And we have to be able to be grounded in factual reality and have conversations with people in factual reality without being anger thrown at us and hatred thrown at us. And it's okay. And it should be okay. And it should be further okay to recognize that we're not always right, that sometimes we're wrong. And sometimes, it's like when we have the perspective as a child, oh, my mom didn't buy me this thing, my dad didn't buy me this thing, my parents didn't do this, or they didn't let me have the cookie before dinner. And we can take their authoritarian decision on ourselves as negative. And then we can grow up and be 30s and 40s or 20s and be like, wow, mom, dad, I kind of held a resentment against you for this thing that you did when I was a kid because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why you did that. But now that I'm older and I have more life experience, I understand why you did this, why you made that decision. And I'm allowing my heart to be free of the resentment that I held onto, the resentment that I held to you for those decisions. You see, this is where we're at right now. This is where we're at politically. This is where we're at in the big picture. This is where we're at with men and women. This is where we're at all around. I saw somebody the other day say, is your hatred for Donald Trump greater than your love for America? And I thought that was a very interesting perspective. And it's like, I think we can take that in all accounts. It's like, oftentimes when we're dealing with any sort of relationship, we can hear that men are terrible, women are terrible, blah, 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 go back and forth. And I like this, it's like when we look at it, we're in this place of changing our minds, you guys. If you haven't figured out the theme of this belief in our minds, this is all about our minds and how our minds are operating and the beliefs that we're taking in and that we're holding on to, that we're claiming this is reality. This is reality, right? I'm a Detroiter. I don't watch I don't know who the coach of the Lions is or the Pistons. I don't have a clue. I couldn't even tell you their first name. Don't know. I didn't watch a single minute of any of the games. I don't know the political beliefs behind any of the coaches. I don't know their stances on a lot of stuff, but go home team, go. And I think we need to take that approach a little bit more. That's my personal perspective and opinion. But right now we have people, it's like this same stuff with belief, you guys, is like, you have a lot of things working for your favor. You have a lot of things that are creating huge amounts of change. Jupiter's septile to this as well, North Node or South Node here, letting go of these energies that no longer serve us. What are we holding on to in our minds that's no longer serving us? What are we holding on to about the patriarchy that's no longer serving us? What are we holding on to about religion that's no longer serving us? Because I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you this first and foremost. At one point in time, Jesus was a very necessary story to tell the people of this world. As right now, where we're at in 2025, it's hurting us. The belief of Christianity and Jesus hurts us more than the truth of the matter, which is, we're talking about the sun, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Okay? So when new information comes to light, like this is what we talk about in the top of this, when new information comes to light, we have to be able to change our minds. So when new information is coming to light, are you putting yourself in a place where you can change your minds? And if so, about our political our politics here in the United States. You know, for my friends that are outside of the U.S., I don't know what's going on in your countries right now. I don't know if you're dealing with the same stuff that we are here in all of this. I apologize. Maybe I should know more about what's going on. And we also have this, like, you know, it's like almost this kite kind of formula happening. We don't have the grand trine aspect of the kite. But it's like we've got the trine, and then two sextiles here, pointing to the North Node. Move in this direction. Now, what's the positive aspect of this? The positive aspect of the North Node in Pisces. Well, if you believe this is your reality, let's say this is my situation that I'm in right now. I'm surrounded by people that think this particular way. I'm surrounded by coworkers, colleagues, people that are in this box. Let's say we'll call it a box mindset. All right. And this is something I hear a lot too. When people come and they'll do a ceremony with me and they'll have this huge life-changing experience. Their mind is completely open. Their heart is very open. You know, it's like that's what the medicine does, is what ayahuasca does. And then they'll come back into real life, normal life, and they realize that they've gone through these great changes. Their mind has changed. Their heart is open, but everybody else is exactly the same. And it's just like in their mind over the ceremony, they've rewired their brain. They've rewired their relationship with that person, and from vengefulness or hatred or frustration to forgiveness and love and compassion and understanding. But when they see that person in real life, that person still sees the quantum entanglement of where they were before this experience, right? So when we're in the process of changing our minds and we're still surrounded by a very physical reality that's unchanged or not changed, this is where the power of meditation, the power of the mind really works. As the book of the Bible and Jesus says, see with one eye, right? Jesus talked about if the left hand sins, cut it off. If the left eye sins, pluck it out. Cast your net to the right, okay? The right brain. Jesus was Pisces. Pisces is about the right brain. Virgo is about the left brain. So the logical, this doesn't make any sense. The Christians at that time wanted to ignore this, okay? Inanna, who was 4,000 years before the age of Jesus, there was a Sumerian god of the sun who died for 3 days and was resurrected on December 25th. It's like, these aren't new stories. And anybody that does any sort of research will realize it's like, okay, these are all old stories told again and again and again and again. And we're just passing it down and passing it down and passing it down. So we can learn this information and expand our minds. And that's the purpose of this next year and a half, this next 16 months, if you will, since the North Node has been there for about 2 months already, is about changing our minds, is about changing our perspective and going from this place is like, I don't have to have my environment change for me to change. Okay, I can sit down and meditate and I can run the race in my mind. I don't need the full track. Okay, I don't need the full track. I don't need an Olympic-sized swimming pool in my house for me to close my eyes, meditate, and see myself on that board, jumping off into the pool and swimming a 50 freestyle. I don't need the pool. I can do it here. Okay, so when we change our poke my eye out. When we change our minds here, we change our reality. And this is how it has to work. We don't wait for reality to change for us to change. We change and our reality around us changed. Why? Because the images that we hold in our mind is what comes up outside of ourselves. This is the law of attraction. And this next year and a half with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, this is dealing with our brains and how we're attracting our reality into our life and how we're observing reality and communicating it back. And it's like, you know, do we want to stay positive? Or do we want to stay negative? Do we want to, it's like the Einstein particle wave theory. It's like when you look at the world as tangible particles, it's never going to change. It's always what it is. When you look at the world as possibilities and waves, and it's a possibility, it could be here, it could be there. You know, look up the study if you're curious about it. This changed the world of quantum physics. It's changed our world of physics as we know it. Because again, the same muscle fibers are twitching and firing. The neurons are firing in your brain and going down to your muscles when you run that race in your mind, when you swim the event in your mind, when you do that thing in your mind. So it's like if you're having the argument in your mind, you're having it in real life. When you're thinking that I'm hated for my differences, you're going to align those things up for you, and you're going to find the argumentation, of logical people who have a very difference of opinion. And people should have differences of opinion. Some people are night owls. Some people want to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a run and go to bed at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Some people are up until 2 a.m. and get up at 10 or 11 in the day. It's like, there's not a one set for everybody. And we're coming off of some egotistic energy right now of the North Node, right? There's always a positive and a negative with everything. The positive side of the North Node that was in Aries was like, you got to learn about yourself, explore what makes you happy in life. Stop seeking external validation. Stop waiting for other people to tell you that you're beautiful, that you're loved, that you're amazing, that you deserve somebody, that you deserve something. Go out there and get it. Like, go take it for yourself. Don't wait for somebody to be like, hey, you're a special person, and I think you'd be good at this. It's like, no, go make that happen, right? And then it's like, oh, all right, well, now we're dealing with like spiritual aspects of our mind. So, the negative side of the North Node in Aries was, my opinion is the right opinion and there is no other opinion, right? My view as a Christian is this is the only way, and we're God's people, and that's the only way. Or I'm Jewish and we're God's people and this is the only, and you're just not it. Sorry, bud. It's like these. It's also delusion. Your ego is part of your delusion. Your perspective is part of your delusion. And how do we know if we're being delusional or not? Sometimes we have to bounce those ideas off of other people. It's like, this is, quite a conundrum. I don't know. Let me come back here. So where are we coming from here with Venus and Mercury? This is really important. And we'll talk about this more as this is happening. But Venus and Mercury are coming back out of Aries into Pisces. What does that mean? We're coming out of our place of me, my, I, self, back into the place of belief and forgiveness and compassion. Okay, what does that mean? It means we all have a lot of forgiving to do. It means there's a lot of people in our phone books that need to hear from you because you owe an apology. I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking for anybody who's listening. You owe somebody an apology. Let's not lie about it. You owe somebody an apology. We all do. And it's because we've been stubborn, we've been wrong, we've been aggressively thinking our emotions and our minds and our desires are right. And they're the only perspective and the only way. And it's just like, why can't we all get along? I love when people say this. Why can't we all just like, well, because we have different views. It's just like, well, why can't we talk about those views? Like, well, some people love cats. Yeah. And some people are deathly allergic to cats. So what's the result? You got to get a cat, but you can't have it around this person. You got to do your own thing and they got to do theirs. And that doesn't mean they hate you or you hate them. That means your desires are simply different and that not everybody is going to align. And that's why we have different colors of the crayon box. And it doesn't matter if you have the 128 pack of crayons or you got the 8 pack of crayons. It's all about what you do with the crayons, right? So it's all about what you do with those crayons, friends, and what picture are we drawing in our lives? And with our little planet of action, Mars here, very strategically placed in Cancer at this exact moment, creating a sextile and a trine to both the South Node and the North Node here, saying whatever you're doing, move forward in a place of compassion. Move forward in a place of understanding emotions. You understand how different this would be if it was in Capricorn. It would be cutthroat. Mars would say it doesn't matter. It's not about other people's emotions right now. This is very much about other people's emotions and other people's energies. So it's like trying to be compassionate at the same time. There's logic. We have to have these logical conversations. We don't want to lose people in our lives by having these conversations, but we hope to expand our minds, expand our friends by having these conversations. And there's certainly a fear and there's certainly a doubt. I watched I'm going to try to end this here. I watched a guy say he said hello to a woman at the gym and asked her name, and that person, the woman went to the ownership of the gym management and had the guy removed. He said, I didn't hit on the person, and they said they even reviewed the footage, and they're like, yeah, it was hi, hello. The lady was just like, hey, I'm married. The guy's like, all right, and kind of went on his way. Let's not lie. Sure, men hit on women in any place they can. as they should. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, people got to do their thing. If I don't know, if an attraction happens and that's how you meet somebody, the stories of how I met your mother are absolutely wild to me. I have no idea how people meet each other, but they do. But you know, his perspective was no is not the worst thing that they can say anymore, because we're being demonized for doing the thing that we do. And it's like, well, we men also have a 2.5 times larger sexual gland in the brain than ladies do. So what makes men want to seek out? Men are the seekers. And then we have the ladies right now. It says like, don't seek me, don't seek me. So it's like very interesting perspectives and like very interesting dynamics of like, I need you to respect my emotions and my feelings, but there's a little bit of a lack of empathy in my personal perspective on that of the masculine. And the masculine is going through a lot of changing. We're all going through a lot of changing. I'm not saying just men are struggling right now. We're all struggling. And we need these healthy conversations to be able to pull us out of this struggle and into, again, that solid, logical ground that we very much need. And the same goes with these, you know, any conversations of like trans topic or any of this stuff. It's like, we need to have these conversations, and there's a lot of fear. There's fear. There's certainly been fear for me to talk about anything like this on this channel, to put it out there. It's like, I've already been canceled like 3 times, so I don't care anymore. Like the left, I'm not left or right, but the left has canceled me so many times over the past 4 years, 5 years, for just saying very real, authentic things that are not intended to be harmful. So it's like, there's a lot of people that are afraid. There's a lot of people that are afraid to speak up and say anything because they're afraid to get canceled, or they're afraid that they're going to lose friendships, or they're going to lose work. You know, which is like that's another wild thing that you can have. Here's another perspective, and we're going to talk. This is the last thing I'll share this. A shadow on our communication, logic, and understanding of life and our belief systems. So you cannot be discriminated against for weight, right? We just had a lady here, I believe it was in Detroit, that was like 600 pounds or something like that. She's a big lady. Big lady called an Uber driver or something like that. The Uber driver was like, I'm sorry, I can't take you. I don't know the whole gist of this story. I think the gentleman, from my understanding, said something about his struts, or his car is not in the best shape to accommodate. You know, he's picking up one person that weighs 3 people. I don't know. I don't know the whole thing. All right, but discrimination, and we got into the topic about discrimination. I got kicked out of a Buffalo Wild Wings because when I got carded twice within 30 seconds of walking in the door, after I gave the person my ID, and they said, why do I have to be carded twice? And this person has my ID. She said, well, the bouncer is not looking at the expiration date. And I did this with my eyes, and she says, I don't feel comfortable serving you. And she slid my back my ID and told me to leave. So it's like, all right, I got kicked out of the Buffalo Wild Wings. I wasn't even rolling my eyes necessarily. I was just like, that doesn't logically make sense. And every time I've actually told that story, and I'm like, dude, I got kicked out of Buffalo Wild Wings. And they're like, why? And I say, well, the bouncer carded me. Then I walked up to the bar, and then she carded me again. And then as I inquiring, because I'm an inquiring person, and they do the same thing. They'll like, I'll tell them, well, it didn't look at the ID, the expiration date, and then they'll do the same thing. Like, that's why I was kicked out. So people get kicked out for having logical conversations. So men are afraid to talk about some of this stuff. Men are afraid to talk about some of this stuff. We're afraid to look weak. We're afraid to look, men aren't supposed to be vulnerable. It's just like, sometimes some of these ladies are saying that stuff. It's like, you look on the internet and it's just like, why aren't men calling immediately, or why aren't men texting immediately? If he's texting you too fast, then he's a loser. He's got nothing going on in his life. If he's not texting you fast enough, what is he doing? Is he playing around with some other? And it's just like, we're being fed by both sexes, not just one or the other, by both sexes on so much of how we should be. It's just like, you need to shut everybody else out and listen to yourself. Go internal to yourself and figure it out. We have to literally get rid of all of these other people. Because like, you don't know. If you're always going to be living your life by other people, it's like, oh, well, I think I should believe in Jesus because somebody else told me I should. It's like, no, not the answer. Do you believe in this? Oh, I think I believe in this. It's like, do you realize how harmful that is to just believe in something and then preach about it without understanding the ins and outs of it. This is the shadow that we're dealing with right now, and we're all having to deal with this. It's going to continue to be exposed aggressively over the next year and a half. Aggressively. Why? It cannot continue to happen. We cannot continue to have these shadows that are ruining our psyche, are ruining our minds, and making us small and imprisoned in our own bodies. Like on both sides, on every side, like not a single person on this planet. And it's like part of this as well is who we give authority to. I have to end this. This is so long. Who we're giving our authority to determines on the cell and the prison that we create for ourselves. You know, it's like, I give you this authority and this power over me. It's like, no, we're the same. There is no authority. Even the judge, even the police officer, even the person on TV, the person on the YouTube video, mom, dad, everybody's equal. There is no above or below. It's only in our minds that we give someone the power or the authority, you know. Oh, look at Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser was touched at the Golden Globes by a guy, and it messed up his brain for years and wanted to leave Hollywood because he was too afraid to communicate about it. Then when he finally came out about it, the guy at the Golden Globes was banned from the Golden Globes for life. But because he was a powerful heavy hitter, people were afraid to speak up. Why? Because they wanted to keep their jobs. Because those good old greenbacks, those dollar bills meant more to just keep the money rolling in than stand up for integrity. I don't believe in that. I would rather stick up for integrity and stick up for what is right and have the hard conversations and not just mute a voice that needs to say something. Because look what's happening. If you don't have the conversation, it can't be part of the process. If we just shut up and we just let everybody run around doing whatever they want and believing whatever they want. Yes, I'm saying that, believing whatever they want. We can't allow people to just believe whatever they want because it's very harmful. And I'm being serious. Like, it's very harmful to believe whatever you want. Like, if I were to sit here and say, in my own mind, I'm worthless, I'm a terrible person, I'm ugly, I'm all these things, I can say all these things to myself, and they're all things I have said to myself. And if I were to believe all those things, and if I were to sit there and dwell on those things, I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't make it. If I truly believed the voice in my head that was telling me all the negative stuff, friends, I wouldn't be sitting here right now telling you this. I wouldn't be able to talk to you. And we need somebody else in life that says, dude, you're doing all right. Or maybe your perspective needs to shift a little bit. And that's okay. We need people like that. We need people like that in our lives. So, all right, friends, we got a lot going on. I don't know if I've said anything that makes sense for anybody else, or if I'm just sitting here rambling about things. I don't think this is the last video I'm going to put out about this eclipse. I'll come back to the chart here for a second to get away from my face. You know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. At the end of the day here, we got to figure out what makes sense for us, come back to a place of compassion, forgiveness, and look at the big picture the best that we can, move forward with some sort of compassion. A lot of new information's coming in. A lot about our world is being changed and uprooted. And there's a bit of Stockholm syndrome that's going on as well. That's the last thing I'll say here with this sextile happening from Uranus. 24 degrees over here to the sun, the exact eclipse place. You know, it's like we have Stockholm syndrome. Man, I hope somebody stuck around to hear that part. We have Stockholm syndrome. And we're like, oh, I just need my capture back. I need the person that captivated me, captured me. I need that person back so they can take care of me again. Because with them gone, I don't know. Do I got to take care of myself? Yeah. Yep, you do. Disillusionment. All right, friends. We'll see you soon.